Throughout most of 2026, Blackmagic have been experimenting with a beta firmware for the Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K. It included linear focus, it included 4-channel audio, and it also included phase detect autofocus. And now firmware 10.2.2 has officially been released. So let's do a rundown of all the features, and if you want to deep dive any of these, check out some of the other videos on my channel. So first we're going to talk about one of my personal favorite features, and then the last thing I'm going to talk about is what I think is the most exciting feature. So firstly, let's start with non-linear autofocus. Well, non-linear autofocus means that your focus dial is only changing according to the speed. So say if you set a focus point, then you turn your dial in one shot, but you turn it faster in the next, you're not going to land on that focus point. Blackmagic introduced linear focusing. Linear focusing works on where the focus dial is in space, if that makes sense. Think of it like a clock. You might mark a point at like 12 o'clock or north, and then you might do one at south or 6 o'clock. Then you can turn your focus dial and it's always going to land at those points no matter how fast you turn that focus dial or focus ring or whatever you want to call it. Next, another really useful feature that I can't praise highly enough, and that is the introduction of 4-channel audio. The camera has on it two mini XLR inputs, a 3.5mm audio jack, and mics built into the camera itself. Now we can fully leverage all of that to record 4 tracks of audio simultaneously. So for one-man production crews or any production crew, this camera should be a real viable option if you want to work in a situation where you're going to be capturing interviews or podcasts, multiple audio sources. It's going to make your life a lot easier. It's a really useful tool. I love having multiple audio sources, and on professional jobs, I always dual mic my subjects just as standard because you never know if something could go wrong. And next up, we have the feature that I think has been getting the most noise. That is the phase detect autofocus. And guess what? I don't know if I'm in focus. I'm using it right now, and I've been using it on the beta firmware and it did a really good job. It's not quite as good as your Nikon Lumix, Canon, Sony cameras, especially like your Sony cameras, that is their like bread and butter. But I can now confidently recommend this for interviews. I can recommend it for professional workflows. I can recommend it for more controlled conditions. You could even use it on a gimbal as well. Anywhere where you've got a little bit of control and the movement isn't too crazy, you're probably going to be okay. Now, I did use it on a styled shoot where we had a model walking quite fast and doing all the typical model stuff. I don't think models do this, but you know. And it did lose focus, so I couldn't use it somewhere like that. Whereas I know that my Lumix probably would handle that quite easily. Not really a problem. You again should learn how to manually focus in those situations. So I was able to manually focus through that whole shoot and it wasn't really an issue. But obviously autofocus is important. For me, a wedding, the camera is always going to perform better than I can at tracking somebody coming down the aisle. So autofocus absolutely has a place, and face detect autofocus in the Blackmagic cameras is great now. But the feature I'm personally most excited about, the feature I could shout from the rooftops, I didn't think we'd get this. I think I discussed it in the forums. I might have even put it on one of those forms when you're downloading firmware to a Blackmagic camera. It's pre-record. So what is pre-record? Well, you may be more familiar with it on a standard sort of stills camera. Pre-record basically allows you, or it would be more known as pre-burst, allows you to take a series of photos without actually saving them to your memory card. On a photo camera, you half press the shutter and it will start taking a series of photos for a set amount of time. Once you fully press that shutter, it will save any photos you took before and any photos you take after you've pressed that shutter. I used it at a ribbon cutting event in the Cotswolds recently, and I wanted to get that ribbon breaking perfectly on time. I used the S12 70 frames per second pre-burst and I got the shot perfectly. Filmmaking, this now means in the Blackmagic camera, you can assign a button, a pre-burst, you press that button, and then on the front of the camera, you have your normal record button. If something cool happens, you hit that record button, and then anything that's happened is going to be recorded before and after you've shot that. Now it can do up to 10 minutes. I also think it can do like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and like 30 seconds as well. I'll put a graphic on the screen to let you know exactly. Not sure why you'd use 10 minutes, but I'm so glad that is in there because you never know, you might need to run off somewhere, leave your camera record and come back. Something cool could have happened. You're going to get the shot. This, and I'm going to say this, and I don't say this lightly because it's cringe. It's just so cringe. But this really is a game changer. I love this feature. I do a lot of wildlife for myself, and I've been trying to do more of it. It's very difficult to do with a Blackmagic camera as well because it's, you know, it's quite a big camera to bring around with you. So if you're bringing a camera of this size and you're not getting the shots, it can be really disheartening. Now, I've actually brought this camera out to Skomer Island because you've probably heard me talk about wildlife on a bunch of videos. So yes, I finally have took it somewhere and filmed wildlife. And if I've got any footage, I'll just leave it in the timeline. And it performed really well. Very difficult to work with at first. I've got a whole video coming out about it. But eventually I did get better and better with it while I was there. But this pre-burst feature would have helped with one thing in particular. I really wanted to capture a puffin coming in from a flight. Now to do that, I couldn't have relied on the camera's autofocus, but what I could have done is set a focus point, left my camera on pre-record, and once that puffin had came in, I would have got the shot. So seeing that we've got that now, I actually want to test this later on in the year, and hopefully I'll be going somewhere cool, so stay tuned. So Blackmagic have released some other additional features as well. They have camera to cloud. I think that's really useful, but it's not something I've particularly looked into. I think if you're working on a production, you need to get the footage over to a remote editor quickly. That's really going to be extremely useful. This camera, much like the new Sony FX5, and I don't start some crazy flame wars. If you haven't watched my last video, go watch it. We done with the tribalism. That camera to me felt more like a production camera. These type of cameras where they've got limited photo capabilities are what I call scalpels. These are designed for singular use, which is just filmmaking, and I really actually like that. I'm really easily distracted. I think we live in an age of constant distraction and our attention span is like nothing now. So I can often be out in the field saying, I want to film this, you know, kingfisher trying to dive, and then I'll switch over to my photo mode and then I'll miss the video or vice versa. Much like that camera, I think these type of cameras are what I would call scalpels. They have a singular job, which is to make films. And these new updates really foster that idea. These are updates that I really urge you to think about if you're looking to actually make real films or even broadcast content, short documentaries, experimental films. These are tools that are really there to help improve your workflow. 4-channel audio is going to be an absolute lifesaver when you need redundancy audio backup and your audio is so crucial. Linearly focusing, please, I can't iterate this enough. Don't always just rely on autofocus. Sometimes it will let you down and it will rob you of some creativity as well. Then of course you've got camera to cloud. I think that could be really useful for some people. And finally, for me, we've got pre-record, which I'm just so excited about. All of these updates in a camera that come from 2023 is really quite remarkable. And now that DaVinci supports ProRes RAW as well, there's even more flexibility. Have you got a Blackmagic 6K full frame? Have you updated it? Have you used the latest firmware? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. I've got more videos on the way and I'll catch you next time. See ya.